Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8. Somehow we're on episode 8 already of the FFS tea break. I think most of you have been along to at least one of these before, so you know the drill, but just in case we have any first-time viewers, this is our 15 minutes at the start of the day, start of the week, to chat to a guest about those moments that we've all experienced that make us go, and what we've done to work our way through them. So today, I am so excited because I am joined by, let's be honest, a bit of a legend, the Emma Djemil. So Emma works to support women in HR to get clarity, confidence and courage to have maximum impact in their careers, but crucially in a way that is sustainable for them. She's also absolutely blooming hilarious. She is currently dipping her toe into the world of stand-up comedy, and I can attest to her being absolutely magic at that. And if you have not followed her on TikTok or LinkedIn and seen any of her videos, what are you doing? Absolutely do that right away. Emma, thank you so much for joining me today. It is a pleasure to have you along.
Oh, thanks for having me. Do you know your voice is so calming? Has anyone told you that?
Not as complimentary, not as in such a complimentary way normally.
Was it like, can you put me to sleep? Can you shut up?
Hey, thanks.
No, it's a beautiful voice.
Thank you very much.
And suits the children's presenter, TV personality we were talking about.
Yes, we noted off stage. I had that terrible moment of being presented by myself and realising I look like someone off of the 80s that's about to bring out a hand puppet. I promise I'm not going to do that.
We could do this by hand puppet. I'm up for that. You know, if anyone would be, it would be me.
Maybe I'll branch out. Maybe I'm going to do a spin-off of the FFS tea break with hand puppets.
I'm down with it.
So over to you. Lay it on me. What is your FFS moment that you are bringing to us today?
My FFS moment, I've got plenty, but the one that I am sticking with is the fact that the HR profession still has to prove its value when it's bleeding obvious that if you look after people, then your business is going to do well. So that I can't remember what prompted that or what was kind of happening at the time that I made that be the one. But that for me is still such a pervasive narrative about the profession. I think it's really damaging. I think it's just like, why have we not moved on from this? Why is this still the conversation? What are we doing? It's obvious. That's my moment.
Yes, I'm here for it, and I completely agree. And it's just, it's so simple, isn't it? But sometimes the simplest things just appear to evade us or evade organisations, or people just don't connect to it, or they get, I don't know, what is it, busyness? Is it like, what, in your experience, what do you think, what have you seen really trigger that disconnect?
I mean, I've got so many theories. Which one do I start with? One of them is around neuroscience. I like geeking out on brain stuff, and there was a study done which showed the effect of power on an individual's brain. Okay. So the experiment they did was simply giving someone a bag of sweets. And I can't remember if it was students or adults, but giving them a bag of sweets, and they got to decide who got to have the sweets. So it was a really simple kind of thing. You're getting to decide, make the decision that affects somebody else. And what that showed was that the circuitry that they were using in their brain switched from a people-focused network to task focused. So the results kind of extrapolated out from that kind of imply and I'm never going to say anything like this is 100%, but that imply that in our brains, we kind of, once we have power over people, we lose the ability to care about people or to think about them, to have them at the forefront of our thinking, because we switch from people to task.
Yeah.
So, and they can't run at the same time. So at a very basic brain level, we might, unless we're really aware of this, we might just simply not even be able to operate the circuitry within our brains to make us care about. It's not about stopping caring about people, about thinking about people as much. And then you throw in all the culture stuff around profit, most important, blah, blah, blah. And then you throw in all the stuff around, well, does HR have influence? And are we able to vocalize our impact and all of that kind of stuff? And then it grows arms and legs. So you go from like really basic individual human reaction through to all the pervasive culture stuff that kind of already mentioned.
Yeah. And there's a massive systems piece in there, isn't there, as well? I'm going to try not to geek out or nerd out about this too much. This is my happy space, talking about like systems and systems thinking. A business, at its absolute base, is a bunch of cogs together that are all whirling around and operating as one big system. But as humans, again, our magical, fantastical brains are not great at being able to look at and comprehend the system as a whole and see when something's happening over here, it's potentially impacting things that are happening over here. So our brains have, found and learned a way to break it down and look at it at its individual parts, which is fine if you then remember to bring it all back together at a later stage and recognize when you're doing a thing over here, it's impacting over here. But I think that's the thing. That's certainly something that, I see and notice in our work that speaks to exactly what you've said about sitting in front of a chief exec or a room full of executives and getting them to understand and recognize and buy into your people and how you need to connect your people practices to your performance as an organization, as a business, to achieving your strategy, hitting your KPIs, satisfying your stakeholders, whatever it is that you're pushing towards. That's driven by your people fundamentally.
Yes. And it's just so, like you say, to me, that is so blooming obvious. Like, if you haven't got people, you don't have a business. You don't, like, so what I do, and also I probably have been one of the people who doesn't talk about that impact particularly well. So I think, and this is where we don't help ourselves, I think, as well, is that I think we're also brought into the narrative as HR professionals that we're not commercial or that we're not strategic and all that crap that we get told all the time. And that means that we are entering conversations from a position of lesser than, because we're already really aware of the fact that people don't think that we've got value and that we're flawed and all that kind of stuff, and that we're fluffy, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're going into conversations going, oh yeah, I probably don't really know what I'm talking about, and maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't, I'm not commercial, and I'm only HR, and I'm only this. And that in itself is not going to be helping us show up with the energy that we need to switch this around. So if we're buying into the narrative, whether consciously or subconsciously, that's going to be impacting our behaviour, and that's going to be impacting the experience people have of us as well. So if we're holding back from those commercial conversations because we don't think we know what we're talking about, because that's what we've been told our whole lives, then we're not going to ever have the chance to also switch it around and show people. I'm not someone who would say that I'm particularly good at maths and all the commercial stuff. I can get really in my head when I'm faced with a financial conversation. So that in itself is going to drive a bit of a threat response to me. So I'm not going to be, and I see that in my clients. I see that with the people that I work with. It's a whole little melting pot, I think, of things.
Yeah.
And always for me, the place that we start with doing something about it is at an individual level. So I talk about us kind of owning our magic and not seeing it as lesser than, talking about the people stuff is really, really important, because we all are humans operating in a human way, which means we're emotional, whether people like to say that or not. We actually, all of us are, and that's driving our reactions and our behaviours to stuff. So we're the experts in that. We're the ones who go, oh, maybe we might want to think about that differently, because that's likely to create a reaction in people, and that's probably going to reduce their productivity if they're all a bit annoyed about this thing that we're planning to do. Like, we're the ones who see that. We are tuned into the people stuff. So very much we should be claiming that and showing up in a way that just makes it really important for people to listen to us. I don't think we are always doing that.
Yeah. Claiming it as a strength. That's what it
100%.
is. Yeah, that's absolutely it.
It is a strength.
Yeah.
Like, I used to sit in HR and I'd be like, why is no one saying this thing that's like really glaringly obvious? And I think it's a really big risk. But it might be there's an emotion attached to it. It might be that all I can really go off is a gut intuition and be like, well, I know that person is having a problem. Or, we are tuned in energetically, empathetically to the energies and to the people around us. We know what's going on, and yet we will sit back and be like, oh no, no one else is saying it, so I shouldn't say this thing that I'm about to say. And the fact that no one else is saying it is exactly the reason that you should be saying it, because it's not that it's so obvious that everyone's thinking it, it's that no one else is thinking it, and you're there as the expert to be thinking it and to be saying it and to getting that information out in the open. So absolutely claiming it as an expertise. It's not fluffy, it's an expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got support in the comments.
Oh yeah, I can't see a comment.
Yeah, so Anne is saying, yeah, we have to own our expertise, like finance, marketing, IT, etc. do. And I think, that's exactly what you've just been saying. You're in that room to be owning your perspective and your expertise and your understanding of the business as a system from its people, from looking at it from that people, through that people lens and from that kind of people angle. Have you got, you've talked about it starting kind of from a, coming at it from that individual perspective first, and, understanding that you have your voice in the room is an important voice, and it's a voice that deserves to be heard. Have you got is there any other tips or hints or things that you've just really connected to over your career, things that you do with your clients that you could share if there are people watching this thinking, this is me, I know I need to do this, but how do I start doing it a bit more?
Yes, I mean, I think understanding like why it is that you're holding back from having the conversation is a really good thing to start doing. So reflecting at the end of the day, was there a moment that I felt disempowered? Was there a moment I didn't speak up? Was there a moment that I should have been more forceful? Like, whatever the disempowering moment was there a moment that I felt really annoyed and I sucked it all up and just carried on? Like, what are those moments? And then kind of doing some reflection around why, and actually reflecting on if in that moment I felt I had no choice other than to not speak up or whatever, what's actually true. What could I have done? Where could I have taken control? Because again, quite a lot of the people that I work with will start to feel a bit kind of victim mentality, like, well, no one listens to me, I can't do anything anyway. And I think that's a really dangerous space for us to be in as a profession, because then you're not even trying, are you? If we're talking about us still proving our value, if you're like, well, there's no point, then nothing's going to shift. So doing that reflection piece regularly around when you're feeling disempowered, and then actually what could I have done? What did I have control over? Where could I have taken action? That's a really good place to start.
Yeah, I love that, Emma. Thank you. They're really giving yourself the grace to have that reflection time, to recognise things that you don't always get to recognise in the moment, especially if you're starting to try to do things differently.
Yes.
You know, it's not always going to land first time for you, because it's, you know, when we try to behave differently, our brains are always going to try and take us back to what feels familiar and safe.
100%.
But the more you give yourself time to think, process, consider after the fact, you're then more prepared and able to plan more for the next time you do it and the next time you have those conversations. And I can see, yeah, someone else is saying control what you can control, and it starts with you. Absolutely. And connecting to, if you are, you know, if you're needing to say the uncomfortable things, you're not responsible for other people's response to that, but you are your responsibility to say it and put it out there.
Yes, there's a whole. I mean, there's so many bits that go along with like just doing the brave thing. Of course, being giving yourself grace, being kind to yourself, rather than beating yourself up. It'd be like, oh my god, I said this thing, and then what, I look like an idiot, and they really reacted. Like that, we can beat ourselves up, especially when we're pushing ourselves to do something a little bit different. So when we start showing up bold as you like, claiming our magic, people will be like, oh, who's shit? Like, what's this person? What are they doing? And people's reactions around you will change, but that is they are entirely their reactions.
Yeah.
So all you can control is, do I want to be doing things differently? If I do, well, then try it out. And if it doesn't quite, like you said, if it doesn't quite go right first time, well, then I don't have to like step back and not do that thing anymore. I just have to learn from it and grow, rather than oh my god, I'm a failure and I'm not doing this thing, right? Because again, we're also, the women that I work with tend to be quite blooming hard on ourselves, because we're also perfectionists. But I think that's also brought into the narrative about trying to prove ourselves, because if we're always trying to prove ourselves, and we don't give ourselves room for failure, because anything that isn't perfect, you know, I could go on for ages.
I would love to go on for ages, but yes, it's so hard keeping these for 15 minutes. I'll never manage it, but it's fine. We've absolutely got people with us, and there's been plenty of comments.
Yeah, someone's saying that they are trying to reposition themselves in the business as well. It is hard. Keep going. All I can see is LinkedIn user, but do connect with me afterwards if we're not connected already, and so I can cheerlead you in my comments and like keep going. It's really important. I do think we have the potential to not only shift the perception of our profession, but shift the workplace in a way that everyone needs as well. But that has to start with us, as individuals, doing the brave stuff, like doing the hard things. So again, find the people who are going to cheerlead you as well, and hang out with them, because it gets easier when there's a group here.
Knowing you're not alone is just
absolutely,
isn't it? Yeah, absolutely, massively. Yeah, you've definitely brought a incredibly relatable topic today. I can see, lots of people commenting and connecting. Thank you so much
thanks
for joining me today, Emma. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think there's been some absolute gems in there that have obviously really, really connected with people. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And like Emma has said, please connect with us both if you aren't connected with us already, because we want to be your cheerleaders at the sidelines.
100%.
Starting to do this a bit differently.
Yes.
And I will see you all next week.
Bye.
See ya.